the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is putting the finishing touches on preparations ahead of the upcoming Federal Capital Territory Area Council elections. The poll scheduled as part of a series of state by-elections and tests of the 2026 Electoral Act amendments are closely watched as a barometer for the success of recent reforms. INEC officials say logistical arrangements, training of ad hoc staff, voter education campaigns, and deployment of sensitive election materials are now in the final stages ahead of voters heading to the polls in the nation's capital, Abuja.
Now, this exercise will also serve as a critical test run for provisions in the 2026 Electoral Act, including improved result transmission methods and other procedural updates designed to enhance transparency and credibility. Well, it is said that the results will be transmitted, but not in real time. INEC had earlier debunked reports suggesting that results for the February 21 FCT area council elections will be transmitted in real time. As preparations intensify, by the way, both political parties and civil society groups are calling on authorities and security agencies to ensure a peaceful, transparent, and credible election that reflects the will of FCT residents. Let's start off this conversation and also to mention that the new central team will be bringing to you blow-by-blow and beat-by-beat account of the election starting off from today. But here on Breakfast Central, we have joining us concerning the elections, a policy development specialist, Paul James, joins us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Breakfast Central.
Thank you very much and good morning.
Good morning. INEC is in the news now. It says it has completed logistical arrangements and staff training. I mean, we've seen pictures all over the place where the INEC boss, Joash Amupitan, has spoken to the civil society organizations, not forgetting to political party members, especially about peace and ensuring a free-flow election. Now, how confident do you think Nigerians can be at this point, knowing fully well that materials, personnel will be deployed early and efficiently, especially on election day?
Well, I can only say we will hold INEC by their words when voters go out tomorrow and maybe don't see what INEC had promised voters, because this is based off our lessons in the past. In the February 2022 FCT elections, what we observed was, especially in the Area 10 axis of the city, was that in the morning of the election, some INEC officials did not deploy, probably because they were substituted the night in the eve of the election, and also even the ones that were substituted did not clearly know where they were supposed to deploy to. Or even in the morning of the elections, where we saw transporters were still struggling to locate locations of polling units or where to how to even transport INEC officials to those locations. So, I mean, for elections, we want to compare the previous with the subsequent. So we hope that INEC have also taken lessons from the Abuja election, because often, if you also go back to election history, you see that elections in Abuja have often been challenging, whether because it is just behind odds at the doorstep of INEC, and so things are left to chance. But I'm also hoping that this will be a litmus test for Professor Joash, especially given that this is the first election that will be conducted under his leadership. The last election in Anambra was just after he had been installed as the INEC chairman. So we hope to see that INEC will not disappoint Nigerians. An election will go unhindered. Like, I mean, we also had observed the last time, FCT election last time was the first time INEC was also migrating to the use of beavers. There were persons that had issues with even getting their details codified on the beavers. I also suffered that fate where I couldn't also vote in the elections in 2022. So we will also hope, again, as voters, that all of this improvement have been done and that people can vote their preference tomorrow in the elections.
Now, Mr. Paul James, you've highlighted some of the problems that we've had in the past, and many Nigerians would also be looking forward to the conduct of the polls, like you said, a litmus test following the brand new Electoral Act. But let's talk about the litmus test. Are the council polls, are they big enough to test the renewed vigor or competence of Professor Josh Amopita, looking at the skill, or maybe we should wait for off-cycle elections in Osun State and Osun and also Ekiti State to decide, if Professor Josh, to know what to expect in 2027?
I think this will be a big test for INEC, especially because if you look at the number of registered voters and the number of PVCs collected, over 1,600 registered voters, over 1.5 million PVCs collected. That is in the region of over 96-97%. And also the level of political education, voter education, civic awareness that had happened, especially in the last 2 months, and the kind of interest that the elections has also generated. We see some of these frontline political parties, how they had mobilized citizens in the last couple of weeks, and also the sort of commitment we've also seen from some of the political leaders, especially as they throw up support to the candidates in the election. So with the kind of interest, of course, that it is generating, you expect that every election stakeholder or every enthusiast will want to beam their searchlight on the election as a test case. Like I said, Osun is not far. Osun is barely like 2-3 months from 2-3 months from now. So of course, you want to see that INEC put its best foot forward, but especially also that within the available parameters of the law, that there is compliance from INEC, and also that the citizens are able to, one, locate their polling units, which is very critical, because if we remember the last time, INEC also did some expansion just before the 2023 election. So we hope that there has been enough voter information for citizens to know how to locate their polling unit, and also on the part of the commission that based on the provisions of the new Electoral Act, or given also that they are operating with the old Act, which not much difference, that there will be full compliance from the polling unit staff that will be deployed on February 21st.
Okay, let's look at security. Security is always a key concern. What coordination do you think is happening between INEC and security agencies to ensure peaceful elections in the FCT starting tomorrow? But bear in mind that the FCT minister has declared today a work-free day, and he says movement will cease from 8 p.m. Do you think this will help to curb any form of insecurity? That's question number one. I want you to look into that. And then my second question in line with that would be, we've always seen security become a major pain in the neck, especially in our elections. Could this also be a test to see how the security agencies will be able to handle it?
Well, my response to this will be the sort of episodic engagement to some of these issues, especially when they are around elections. Security concerns in the FCT have been going on for a while, and then now going close to the election, you're beginning to hear these measures like curfew starting from 8 p.m. and all of that. While, I mean, in some sense, that gives people some sense that the government is watching and government is doing something about it. You also will have expected that there have been some build-up, especially in the security, in curtailing the security concerns as we approach the elections. We've followed political campaigns very closely. We've heard some of the candidates making commitment or making promises to addressing neighborhood security concerns or addressing security issues. And then you begin to wonder, to what extent do they even understand the security dynamics or the security challenges of the FCT? But also I understand that will also supposed to happen, I mean, in close quarters with the security agency security personnel, but the expectation is that the election is already before us, and then I will expect that the security will have done all of this its mapping, all of the profiling before the election, and then deployment will also be total to all of the polling stations, because sometimes what we get to see is that it is some of the government establishment that get to have more security people deployed than even the polling station or polling unit. So I expect that every polling unit would at least have some sort of sense of security deployment, not also just deployment, that they are also there to provide the kind of care that is expected, and that deployment will also be early. We have seen instances in the past also where INEC will deploy but will not start because they are waiting upon the security officials to arrive. So we will hope that there has been this close coordination between INEC and the security agencies, that they will deploy together from the racks to the polling units, and not necessarily that INEC will arrive and be waiting for security officials to arrive. This will be a big confidence booster for the citizens as they go into the election, especially what is going to happen 24 hours before the election. My sense is that there might be some sort of last-minute security check today or some security briefing today that will provide that assurance. We hope that security will stay by their words, and not also to come tomorrow the morning of the election, you see security doing parade before they deploy to the polling units. Whatever parade that needs to happen, whatever briefing that needs to happen, we hope that will happen tonight so that elections can commence as early as INEC has promised Nigerians.
Now, I want to follow up, Mr. James, on this issue of curfew and, security briefings. This is our 25th uninterrupted, this is the 25th year of our uninterrupted democratic experience, and 25 years is a long time to improve your election systems, to, deal with logistical issues, because you should be learning from your past experiences. In our neighboring countries like Ghana, for example, election day is not a public holiday. You vote and you go about your business, and that's done in many parts of the world. Why is it that when it comes to elections in Nigeria, that there's this palpable tension? I mean, today is Friday. There are businesses in Abuja that make a lot of income from the Friday night economy, and you're imposing a curfew when we're not in a state of war because of elections. We're always so quick to say that, the Ondo State Police Command has deployed 50,000 policemen to monitor the elections. Is it that Nigerians don't know how to conduct themselves in a civil manner? Elections are a civil exercise. I mean, you go about very peaceful. You go about choosing your candidates. But why is it that after 25 years, we haven't made so much progress in that? There has to be this tension. You have to stop movement of people and, deploy battalions and what have you. Why are we not making progress on this front? Even though we've introduced technology, BVAS, e-transmission and what have you.
Unfortunately, I'm also as concerned as you, to be honest, that I have observed a lot of elections across Africa, and then election day happen, you don't even hear any views from anybody. You go about your business, you just go vote and you go back. And I've seen also places where citizens go to even sleep at the polling units. Places like in Zambia, for instance, you see people going as early as 2 a.m. to polling units to just wait out till the morning of the election to go vote and go back. And then everybody goes about their business. Or even places where you see materials are given to officials the night before the election. These materials sleep in their houses, and then they move with the materials at the morning of the election to the polling station. Now, it's the level of trust in the country, one, that is still a big challenge. Number two, also, the way and manner in which politicians go about heightening the security issues around the elections. For me, to be honest, sometimes I feel like as much as we talk about weaponization of poverty around our election, I also feel sometimes that security is also weaponized around election, because sometimes by the time they are able to put so much fear in the minds of the people, then of course people may have a mind change about going out to participate in the election on the election day. And sometimes it's when people don't go out to vote that manipulation in most times happens. So my fear is that there is always this idea of weaponization of security issues in the country. We've also heard in the past utterances from politicians where they will tell you election is a do or die affair. So we need to move away from that mindset first. And also, even in the security deployment, you also need honest honest conversation with the security agencies around the deployment. Sometimes you go to the field and you begin to ask yourself, where is these numbers that was paraded? Do they truly exist? So the way all of this is hyped, before election, you also see some zones that politicians will tell you, or analysts will tell you, are red zones. Election day will happen, and you feel almost like nothing had happened in those places. We've seen state elections that people will have a lot of projections before the election that may not even be election in those states, and election day will come, and those elections will get to happen. So my point is the fact that we need a lot of political education around it, and also for the security agencies to start engagement around electoral security earlier before the elections. When the security agencies want to do show of force, most times this show of force happens just a week before election. And in the build-up to the election, you'll be hearing issues about kidnapping, all sort of criminality happening around those vicinities, and then you almost will not hear of any arrests or anything done to apprehend or to stop those things from happening. So again, like I said, we need a lot of confidence building approaches as we go into elections, but importantly also, as arrests are made or as the security is instituting any sort of measures to forestall that, you need also a lot of public communication around what the security is doing, and that is where you build people's confidence to continue to engage the process.
All right. I mean, it's much more like you've given them a TED talk, or I would say a masterclass on how this can be done, and also some of the issues that we hear, especially leading to the elections. But with the recent controversies, which I am sure you are aware of result transmission and technology in past elections. Oh, no, it should have been uploaded in the IREV. Oh, no, why is it that we don't see the results anymore? There have been mutilated papers and so on and so forth. Do you think, I mean, in all honesty, do you think that the FCT polls this weekend will help restore faith in electronic processes? And what way can Professor George Amukpito-led INEC prove to Nigerians that it's a definitely new dawn and a new day?
First off, why you see this is generating much attention is that people wanted a legal recognition to electronic transmission. There's been a lot of nuances around it, especially given what the Commission had done in the past. Recall in 2019, when PDP was saying, open your server and all of that. It was because there was even an attempt by the Commission to do transmission in 2019. But again, the Commission at that point said they were using it for their own learning processes. Building from 2020 through 2022, there have been a lot of transmission, or if you like, upload, as the Commission would like to call it. But in the minds of Nigerians, we know it is transmission. What does that simply mean? What we are doing is not, in a sense, a full-fledged electronic voting. Given, okay, that, for instance, we use beavers to accredit voters, that is electronic. Of course, after that, also the expectation is that the INEC official will take a snapshot of the Form EC8A and then upload on the INEC election results being portal. All Nigerians are asking is that give legal recognition to this process, because if you see what had happened in the past, that you might even go on some of the portal and you see results that are not reflective of what has transpired at the polling unit level. What the new guideline has done is to mandate INEC, one, to do the upload. Number two, there is now punitive measures for INEC officials, especially where the results that are uploaded online does not correspond to the one that were released, at the polling unit. Because don't forget, at the polling unit level, INEC officials will get to issue copies of these results to political party agents as well as also to security. There is also the Form EC60E that is pasted at the polling unit level for the public to see. So you want to see that there is a correspondence between what has happened at the polling unit and what is uploaded online. So again, for this election, what will be the expectation? That the forms that are posted online by INEC are from EC8As. Sometimes you even go online and you see that the forms posted as probably some piece of paper or some papers that does not even have any connection with from FCT, just so you want to avoid all these legal challenges at the end of the election. And again, like I said, if you check the success rate of the uploads of results over the last couple of elections, even from 2022, even in the 2023 election, success rate has been in the region of 95, 97, 98%. So this is something that INEC has been experimenting for a long time, in fact, as far back as 2018. And so getting that in our electoral law now, for instance, like I said, just attract more public attention, more public scrutiny, and also the need for INEC to do what is right by Nigerians.
Now, finally, Mr. Paul James, before we let you go, I recall when we started this conversation, you did talk about the positives of the Abuja Council polls, the number of people that are interested in this, the number of PVCs collected. And my question is to the interest that it's generating. I'm not sure in recent memory if we've had any FCT Council polls that have generated such a buzz that political gladiators and heavyweights have dug in this fight. We've seen presidential candidates, former presidential candidates, endorse candidates in this upcoming polls. We've also seen the FCT minister speak tough on the elections. Is it a good thing that it's generating all this, buzz and excitement? And what should Nigerians really look out for when assessing the conduct of the elections that will be held tomorrow?
I think for me, it's a good sign that people are not paying interest to, if we like, local level elections. Abuja could be placed as a quasi-state, not a full state, but of course not also a local government, because, as we know, this is the only election that INEC is conducting. At the state level, elections, the local government elections are conducted by State Independent Electoral Commission. So that in itself should tell us something. Not that Abuja is more important than other states, but for some reasons, for the wisdom of the crafters of our constitution, it is now mandated that INEC manages this election. For me, I like the interest that it is generating, and I hope we can also apply the same interest when it comes to other local level elections. And what are we seeing or getting from this election? A lot of the conversations around election, especially around political discourse, are issues around infrastructure, security, maternal health care, unemployment. If you look through all the political campaigns, they have been centered around that. What does that tell you? That even around the seat of power, the same challenge that confronts Nigerians across the country, Abuja also faces the same challenge. Maybe this will also bring interest, shift interest to the issues of governance, and for the people that will be elected to know that Nigerians are watching, and hopefully that by the time they get elected, they will get to do what is right this time around. If you follow campaigns across local government, you will see that to some extent, the candidates truly understand what are tangible, and the tangible needs of those communities. In places like Kwali, for instance, you hear candidates saying things like they want to focus on maternal health care or providing free antenatal, or places like Abaji, you hear people talking about infrastructural deficit, things like even markets, unfortunately, or like recreational hubs for young people, or even in Amak, that is the seat of power in the center of Abuja, candidates are talking about neighborhood security, or talking about the issue of maternal health care, so primary health care. So to tell you, these issues confront us every day, are similar to what the people of Abuja also face. And we hope also that they will keep true to their words, and when they get elected, that they will really see how they will address this issue. Just for me to also conclude is to also encourage inclusion, especially in the process, because if you look at the list and profile of the candidates that will be participating in the election, unfortunately, we don't seem to have much women as would have been expected. Over 500 candidates are contesting for councillorship. Only 50 are women. Over 60 candidates are contesting for the chairmanship. Only 5 are women. Over 45 or thereabout are contesting for vice chairmanship position. Only about 11 are women. But again, I will say women or other marginalized marginalized communities should not be discouraged, see how they can be part and be counted in the process, and maybe it is true that they will begin to have their voices heard in the process, and also begin to do push for those kind of change that they want to see in the process.
Thank you so much for your insights and your time, Mr. Paul James, Elections and Policy Development Specialist. We do appreciate your time and insights with us.